All right, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. This is a client briefing where we're going to spend a few minutes talking about new functionality that's been released in Release 4 of Intacct 2024. This morning, Mike Fox will be spending a few minutes talking about the functionality and giving some overview there. And then Wes Salisbury, who you are all familiar with, I'm sure, is going to join us and spend a few minutes talking about data analytics and decision support here at Mainer Solutions. My name is Tim Holstein. I'm the director of the tech practice here at Mainer. And we want this morning's session to be informative, educational. We are going to keep the mics muted, but would encourage any questions that you have. Please put your questions in the chat. You should be able to find a chat button at the bottom and be able to just type your questions in. I'll monitor the chat and interrupt Mike as appropriate, or make sure we get the questions answered at the end. And then Mike, when you're done, if you would just hand it over to Wes, that'd be fantastic. Sure. We are recording this morning's session, and you'll get an email in the coming days with a link to the recording if you'd like to go back through it, or if you have other people from your team who might find it helpful or informative. So without further delay, Mike, thank you for your preparation, and we look forward to hear what you have to say. Thanks.
Thanks, Tim. And thank you everyone for taking the time to join today. We're going to cruise through some of the new features in Release 4, which came out, was released on Friday, November 8th. As far as disruptions from the releases, I'm sure you've all experienced this before. When a release comes out, sometimes there are things that kind of go a little wonky. I had a couple of small issues arise. I've been monitoring the community. It looks like they did a pretty good job with this one, but it didn't have a far-reaching scope. So knock on wood here. I hope you could hear that. So we're going to jump in here. I just want to spend a second here reminding you where you can go in Sage Intacct to look at not only the current release notes, but also prior release notes. And so I'm just going to jump over into an Intacct environment here and show you. This is the home icon, and it takes you to this page, and you can find all the release notes here. So click on the Read the Release Notes link. It opens up a side panel, and within this panel, you'll be able to see like all sorts of things for core modules. You'll see everything that's listed in here, and you can read it. In addition, before just jumping in, I recommend that you maybe watch the release video. It's the highlights. They're usually less than 20 minutes long. Definitely worth your time. They do a pretty good job of focusing on the things that they feel are the most beneficial. I just recommend that you do that. You'll also notice that when the releases come out, and if they've got like something in an area, they've released something, and then you are in that area in Intacct, you'll see those little annoying pop-ups, that to say, hey, we've done this new thing, want to find out more, and you're usually probably going to say no thanks. But I do encourage you to take the time either to look at those as they come up, or to come over here to the homepage and look at the release notes, because there's usually something for everyone in here. Okay, so let's go back to my slideshow here. So the couple of things, there's always some early adopter opportunities in Intacct, and there's a couple with this Copilot. There's a variance analysis where the intent is to use AI, the Copilot, to provide some insights into budget to actual variances, and give you some kind of like a over the shoulder, hey, look at this kind of a thing. So you can sign up for early adopter. There's a survey. There's on the release notes. When you click on this, there's information about it, and there's a link for a survey. And they're going to be kind of picky about who they choose, because they want to pick early adopters that will allow them to test how this is working. And there's also a Copilot search engine that's going to help supposedly with your queries into Intacct. There's one other early adopter opportunity, and I don't know how many of our clients out there, how many of you out there have to load more than the maximum 1,000 bills that AP Pay Bills allows you to load, but they're working on an enhancement of up to 5,000. So if you're one of those folks that want to load more than 1,000 at a time, go ahead and sign up for an early adopter and see if they let you in.
Well, hey, Mike.
Yep.
Actually, so one thing I wanted to just mention on that prior tab, right, on the prior page that you had up, just to bring folks up to speed as to what Sage Copilot is. So last year, or not last year, it was already it was February, so technically this year, at the Sage Intacct conference, they announced that they are working on this AI pretty much assistant directly embedded inside of Intacct, which has been in the works. They've been talking about it for a while, but now they're kind of really starting finally to release functionality related to it. So that's what this is related to. So this Copilot stuff you're seeing is just going to end up being a sliver of what the entire picture will end up being. Not sure when that will be, but I just wanted to let you know that's what Copilot is slated to be.
Do you know if they mention whether it's going to be part of their subscription or is it going to be a kind of an add-on?
They didn't mention, and I'm sure they're still in the early goings of it. So as we find out more on that, we'll let you all know. But sorry. Yep. So unknown as of yet, but we will find
Okay.
out.
All right. Well, thanks, Wes. So I'm just going to roll through some of the things and some of the modules that I feel you might want to be aware of. But I encourage you to go back through there yourself because there's other things in there. I'm not going to cover everything today in the interest of time, and I'm actually going to go back to release 3 and pull out a couple things there that I don't have in the presentation. So this is something that we as consultants are really excited about because every time we sign a new client, we have to put a support case in for this customer ID because it's required to sign you up for Sage Community. So hallelujah, thank you, Sage, for putting it right in the company information tab. There's going to be a change in May of next year. And Intacct is asking you if you are using a custom domain for email to authenticate and validate it in Sage Intacct. So it's a little techy. So if you are using a custom email domain, you should know that. You just log a support case, support@mainersolutions.com, and we'll help you with that, okay? So there's also some new user permissions. Whenever there's some new functionality, most often there's more there's correlated permissions that you have to set up. So as we get to go through the presentation, if you're going to use vendor reconciliation or AR customer reconciliation, and I'm not going to cover this, the time and expense electronic receipts, you will need to just go into company admin users or roles and add those permissions. Just wanted to point that out. All right, in accounts payable, this is something that a lot of people have wanted. Intacct's getting us part of the way there, but not as far as we would like it to go. But when you send automatic payment, vendor payment notifications right now, it's just sending it to the primary email address here. But now Intacct allows you to send it also to the secondary email address. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. Right here's where I want to go. So there's a configuration that you have to set up in AP. It's really simple. It's just a click. It's this one right here. Include secondary email contacts in your automatic payment notifications. So check that box and save it. Then on the vendor tab, on the vendor master on the vendor tab down here, you would just put in a secondary email address. And notice I've got this one here and this one. And I actually paid a bill for this vendor, and we'll look at the email delivery history here. make this a little larger. So here's the bill that I paid for that vendor that's set up with two with the secondary. And you can see that it went, from Intacct, from me paying the bill to the primary email address and then to the secondary. So like I said, that's a big step for Intacct, because this has been something that was in the community and voted on for, I don't know, 12 years. So they finally did something about it. But I know that some of you probably have to send a payment notification to more than the two people. But anyway, that's good for now. So the other feature that Intacct has provided is the ability to reconcile payments and credits to bills. So when you look at like an AP Ledger card right now, you see the payments and you see the charges, but you can't really correlate the payments, to the bills, and the same holds true for accounts receivable. They're doing the same thing for accounts receivable. So they're coming up with a way to allow you to kind of see this. And if you're interested in doing it, I would recommend just logging a support case with us, because then we can kind of help you through it. It is a little bit techy because it involves a document sequencer. So let's go back to this. I'll just show you what it looks like. This is the end result. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that vendor in there. So through the use of a match sequence document sequencer, I'm not going to get into all of that, but basically what we set up a document sequencer, and then when the payments are made, it will basically tag the bill. So here's the bill, APM, all of these A's, and then here's the corresponding payment, APM, all of these A's. So fully paid bills or fully paid AR invoices will always be, the match sequence will always be in all caps like this. Partially paid like this one, we've got this $500 bill and I paid 300 of it. Partially paid will be in lowercase until it's fully paid. So the thinking is that you can then match these up. Now there's a sort feature on here, and I tried sorting it. It's like, okay, they've got this match sequence code. So what I was expecting when I click view on here would be to have my, my APM AAA and my APM AAA here, together on the report instead of kind of split up. So I'm a little bit puzzled by what that sort is for. Wes, if you've got any insight into that, chime in. But this is a big step in being able to help you when you're looking at a vendor reconciliation report. Notice how it's pretty similar to the AR and AP ledger reports, but now you can go through there and say, okay, this bill was paid with this payment. So anyway, I hope you're impressed with that. I think it's kind of neat that they've done that.
Yep, I'll just chip in just one moment. Yeah, I think that's a cool feature because you could put together a type of customer report to kind of replicate it, but that can kind of be kind of an ugly format, and it's some effort to put it together. So I'm definitely glad they made it an out of the box report. And Mike, my understanding is I haven't tinkered with it a ton myself because the release just launched.
Right.
But this reconciliation report, the idea behind it is it would also kind of aid you in figuring out like which credits also were married up to like which bills and things like that, right?
Yep. Any payment, any credit, anything. Yep. It will tag it with that match sequence, and so it'll. And I was thinking, if maybe that sort thing, I misunderstand how it works, but you could export it and then you could sort it by the match sequence to put them all together if you wanted to.
Yep, and this is the debut release for it, so they're going to gather feedback from the community. They're going to probably soup it up and make tweaks as they do with other things. So, yeah.
Thanks, Wes.
Yeah.
So as I said, the same thing is available in accounts receivable. It's set up the same way. You create a sequencer for it, and then there's a customer reconciliation report in the accounts receivable standard report list. So it's the concept is exactly the same. So there's really no need in demonstrating that. Here's a big one, in my opinion, because a lot of our clients have been, let's face it. I'm not going to dog Intacct, but the statements that they provide for us are not that good. And they've been listening to this for a while. And so finally they have they're allowing us to they have a new merge field that we can put in. We can modify the Intacct standard AR statement and put in this balance. So now you have it used to be just charges and payments. There was no balance. So now you have a balance here. Again, that's a printed document. I don't know of any of our clients that have been very astute at going into those Word documents and using the printed document toolbar to modify their invoices and their purchase orders and their statements. But we're more than happy to assist you with that. So I'm finally glad that we can send out customer statements that have a balance column on there. Nice job, Intacct. I don't know how many of our clients use Sage Fixed Asset Management, but they have this new thing where you can override the posting dates. So when posting, entries from the post depreciation page, you can now choose a custom posting date. There's some caveats on that. The posting date that you choose has to be in an open period, and the date that you choose is on or after the scheduled posting date of the first unposted entry, and the date is on or before the scheduled posting date of the next unposted entry. So that's a lot of verbiage there. But this is kind of what it looks like here is in this little screenshot. You can see that we've got the scheduled posting date, and they've also changed the existing posting date to be called scheduled posting date. So this used to be called posting date. Now it's scheduled. Here's where you can do the override in this actual posting date field. And notice that the next open posting date is 11/30. So you can use any posting date up to 11/30, in there, but before not before the scheduled posting date, before 9/30. So in this window of 9/30 to 11/30, you can select an actual posting date. Now, I don't know what case scenario that would be for. I don't use fixed assets a lot, but evidently there was a call for this. So if you are thinking that this is something that you might want to pursue, there's no configuration changes at all. It's going to be it's automatically available to you.
Yeah, and Mike, I'll just go ahead and chip in a little bit there.
Yeah.
So that the instance where this would come up would be, let's just say you already closed your books for a prior period, but you find out oh shoot, there's some depreciation, entries that I should have posted in the past, but I didn't. I've already issued financials. I'm not going to go back and back post something. This is essentially the situation that calls for.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
One other thing I would like to mention as well, especially for those of you who are using fixed assets who are checking out the release notes. This you can kind of tell it's a different module so in the screenshot you can see on the right there it says fixed assets management. This is Intacct's new version of their current fixed assets software. So for those of you who are already using fixed assets inside of Intacct, chances are you're running either the third-party WhipFleet Asset Edge module, or you're running the old version of Intacct's fixed assets. But what you see here, this is kind of their new version that they've just launched. Details are still coming out as to what its pricing is and how you can convert to it. But I just wanted to get that out there because
I think we did convert one of our Sage fixed asset clients to the new version. But you have to log a support case to Intacct, and then they'll put you on the schedule to do it. But I don't know that, do you think, Wes, that this pertains that this is also affecting Whipley's version of fixed assets, this override posting date feature?
No, Whipley is
Totally
always.
different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for the clarification on that. Appreciate it.
Yep.
And you can also now use transaction allocations in fixed assets. There's some caveats with this as well, that the location must be the same on all lines of the allocation, and it also must match the location of the asset. But this field will now automatically appear on your fixed asset user interface screen. The allocations have to also be created in the entity where they'll be used, but you can't use them if you're using a tax application. Okay. And then lastly, in Sage Fixed Asset Management, they've added this notes field here that allows you to capture 2,000 characters. So you could write a pretty good essay and maybe get some points for grammar usage if you have 2,000 characters. Cash management. So this is going to pertain to the one client on the call. I think I'm not going to call her out, but Kelly, you've got some new check printing formats for Canadian checks. I would ask you to kind of look at this to see if this would be of interest to you. And since I'm talking about Canada, there's a new Canadian tax, Kelly, that they've done some updates to it. And I think we should just schedule some time and go through it together to see what we need to do to bring that on in your instance of Intacct. Okay, so just reach out to me when you have time, and we'll go ahead and look at that. So before we get to the questions and the open discussion, I do want to jump over to release 3. There's a couple things I do want to show you that you might already be aware of, but I do want you to see these. And then I'll hand this over to Mr. Salisbury. So in release 3 and accounts payable, a couple of things. You can now unapply credits in the posted payments list. So this is huge because you can just do it in one spot. Go to posted payments and unapply a credit. And you can also void payments from the posted payments list. That's new. Used to be you have to go in a check register to do it. So they moved it all over here, which is really, really convenient. So you can unapply credits and void payments from the posted payments list. Then the other thing is user restrictions are enforced for payment approval. So restricted users, and this would be if you've got users who are restricted by entity or by department, they can no longer approve or decline payments that contain line items coded to departments and locations for which they don't have access. They used to be able to do that. Now they can't. So they can. The implication for that is that you'd have to create payment approval requests like bills or whatever it is that you're submitting or purchase documents through the approval workflow that only have the dimensions to which they're restricted coded. Okay, so I don't know how many of you would be affected by this, but I did want to point that out. There's a lot of good things in here. If you haven't looked at this, take a look at it. There's some good stuff in here. And cash management, I do want you to see that in the bank reconciliation screen now, it used to be when you would open up the bank reconciliation, the status was not set to unmatched transactions, and now they've set that. It's not a big thing, but it is something to be aware of if you're not used to it. So when you open up a bank reconciliation the first time, it's going to automatically display just the things that are unmatched. So there are a number of things in here that I'd like you to go through if you haven't. But my last parting plea is to please go through these release notes as they come out, as they're out there. Like I said, there's something for everyone in here. Sometimes there's some big things, like things that are that we've been looking for a while. Other times there's just a series of small things, but it's really important to keep up with it. We're going to do our best to do these webinars to coincide with the releases, and maybe try to harvest a little more content for the future ones. But I hope that you found this helpful. Before I hand it over to Wes, I want to check in with Tim to see if we have any questions out there.
We do not have any questions at this point.
All righty. So I'm going to stop sharing, and Wes.
Actually, Mike, can you keep sharing for a second?
Okay.
Just because it may be too complicated to switch to me. Well, one thing I wanted to just say, yeah, just like what Mike was saying, we encourage you all to check out the release notes. They are released every quarter. And Mike, if you scroll up to the very top for me, there's a release calendar that you can look at. So, of course, 2024, the last release was just launched. So, that calendar is no longer up. But this is the 2025 release calendar. And usually they do a good job of, I can't remember of one situation where they changed the release date from this calendar. But yeah, you maybe mark this on your work calendars to say, hey, Intacct is launching a release today, this day, whatever. Typically a couple weeks before each launch, Intacct will put out preview notes. So you can check out like a couple weeks in advance, like what is upcoming. Like Mike and I, we prepared for this kind of going off of the preview notes. And yeah, that can be super helpful to figure out like what's coming down, what's coming up with the releases there. And also, Mike, just because I can think of a couple clients where this feature may be useful, I just wanted to get it on record. Can you go back to, release 3 and then go to click under, it's going to be under purchasing. Yeah, and it's the trace original transaction documents. Okay, so right now, and this, by the way, this is the same case in order entry as well. But most of our clients who I work with, we run almost exclusively purchasing. So right now today, if you go and pop open like an invoice inside of purchasing, for example, and that invoice is matched up to a receiver, and that receiver was converted from like a PO, and that PO was converted from like a requisition. Today, you can go into the history tab to see all that. But now with this new functionality, you can pop open the line item. Like if you want to pop open a particular line of an invoice, you can see like what transaction did it originate from? Like, you can pretty much, I'm mixing up my words here. If you go under source document ID that Mike is pointing to right now, that points to the immediate prior transaction that it originated from. So this is an invoice right here, and its immediate prior transaction was a receiver. And then that allows you to do a quick link back to the receiver that it originated from. But going back even further, this originating document ID, this shows the very first transaction in the workflow that had this item on it. So this is just kind of like a one-stop shop to figure out, which PO did this line originate from. So this may or may not be useful for most of you. And the way I just said that didn't really make any sense. My point is that for some of you, this may be super useful. Some of you just not. Because I do work with some organizations that have everything start life as a purchase requisition, and it can sometimes be a little tricky to figure out like, hey, where did this transaction originate from? But this makes it a lot more clear, and it also exposes it in reports, which is super helpful.
Wes, I think this is this feature was added because you can convert lines. You can convert by line, right? And so this is at the line level, and it shows you the history by line, I think, right?
Yep, absolutely. And in addition to that, since these fields are now exposed on the line level, it makes it a lot easier to create reports. Like if you want to see like an unvouchered receivers report, for instance, you can show the listing of all the unvouchered receivers out there, but then you can also see like what PO it originated from, or even requisition that it originated from. So again, that may not be important to some of you, but for some others of you, that may be pretty important. So if you see this and you're curious, and if you want to see maybe how you can better leverage this, just give us a holler, support@mainersolutions.com, and we can tackle it from there.
Very good. You want me to stop sharing now, Wes?
Yes, thank you for checking, Mike. Yeah, I don't need to share anymore. So, cool. Well, thank you for that, Mike. And if you have any other questions, feel free to, again, to continue using the chat. Even if it's not necessarily related to this release, we probably will have a little bit of time excess left over here. But what I wanted to talk to you all today about is, of course, for those of you who have been on Intacct a while, you've worked with Mike and I for a while, and me in particular, I've probably worked with you on, Intacct work, of course, and integrations and things like that. But one of the things that we're starting to focus on as a practice is helping clients with their data analytics process. So as of today, not only most organizations have several different systems running, including Intacct. So you may have some data residing in Intacct. Maybe your financial data is all in there. Maybe you have some operational data sitting over in this system. Maybe you have some spreadsheets or like an Access database or something like that that holds other data that is important to you. And at the end of every month, or maybe during the month, you aggregate and consolidate all that data into maybe a spreadsheet or, again, a database to build like a report that contains not just your financial data, but also your operational data. One of the things that we've been focusing on as a practice as of late is, well, I just said it earlier, is helping you build out processes and systems to help streamline that data gathering process, so that instead of spending hours and hours every month or week building out all these reports from all these disparate systems, you can make things a lot easier on you. So the example I want to use is you have data residing in Intacct, you have data residing in this database, that database, this spreadsheet, that spreadsheet, and you need to manually like link together all that data. But what we can help you with is we can use tools like Power BI, Microsoft Power BI, and Martis, which is a budgeting and FP&A tool, which you may have heard about for those of you on Intacct. And what we can assist you with is we can assist you with building out processes and programs to help bring all that data into one central area or a data warehouse, and ultimately build reports, graphics, visuals, all those things that you can then provide to your board, provide to your managers, GMs, project managers, things like that. So I just wanted to just kind of throw that out there at the end, that if you're having any trouble with creating these, if you're doing like dashboarding outside the system, reporting outside the system, if you're doing things in spreadsheets, we have some tools and methodologies that can certainly help you there. And like I said before, we are doing work in Power BI, we're doing work in Martis. There's a report writer called Cosmos that we do work in. And we're just throwing it out there that if you have struggles with that, we're here to help you. Because ultimately, Intacct is a very solid software, but also there may be instances where you can't just dump all your data into Intacct, right? You can't just dump all your data into Intacct and then use Intacct's reporting tools to get everything you need. Sometimes you need to get more complex, you need to do calculations, need to do all these other things. So the default response for most folks is they just go out to Excel and just do it in Excel. But we promise you there's a better way of doing it. And if you want to maybe talk about better ways of doing that, just give us a holler. So that's kind of my that's all I have to say about that. So, Tim, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Wes. Thank you to Mike for prepping and presenting that information, and thank you to Wes. Appreciate your support in this process. We do have a question coming in. is that training free of charge, or does it come with an upcharge? I'd be helpful to know specifically which training, if you could clarify that, and then we can address that.
Power BI.
Yeah. Go
Oh,
ahead, Wes.
yeah. Yeah, I'll go ahead and tackle that. Yeah, I mean, if you want us to teach you Power BI, I mean, that would be, you know, a paid, that would be a paid thing. However, the cool thing about Power BI is it's so widely used. It's a Microsoft product. If you go on YouTube, well, if you go on, you know, the internet, you go on YouTube, there's hundreds of people with how-tos for Power BI. Great. There's whole like hours and hours long courses on YouTube about like start to beginning how to starting to end how to use Power BI. And in addition to that, Microsoft, I think it's on multiple platforms, but there's this learning platform called Coursera, Coursera. And Microsoft has a big Power BI course on there. So if you want to sign into that, that is a paid subscription, but pretty much long story short, yes, we can help train you on Power BI, but that would be a paid event. But there's so many resources out on the internet, you may want to follow up on that. And you're very welcome.
Yeah, good. Thank you for the question. I appreciate it.
Yep.
One more here. Is the vendor reconciliation report standard or a custom report?
Yep, I'll take that as well. Yeah, that's a standard report. That's the cool thing about this release is traditionally, if you wanted something similar to that, that would have been a custom report, and which is fine, but it's sometimes tough to get those like completely correct. And you know, in all honesty, the format can be kind of janky. But yep, it's a completely standard report. Like what Mike said, in order to get it properly set up. There's a little bit of technical stuff you need to do, like set up a match sequence, and I'm assuming you also need to give yourself permission to it. But yes, it's a standard report, standard functionality, no custom stuff with that. But it certainly looks like it holds promise.
Thanks, Wes.
And it's pretty easy to set up. It really is. But the document sequencer part, if you're going to do it yourself, just make sure that you just read those notes carefully. We're happy to help you with that.
Thanks, Mike. All right. I'm just going to comment on Coursera. It's very modestly priced. It's a pretty affordable subscription. There's tons of learning that can take place there. Wes mentioned it as part of the answer related to learning Power BI. All right, fantastic. Good. I want to thank everyone who took the time to attend today. As I mentioned, there will be a recording sent out. You can share it with your friends who might be interested. And once again, I just thank you for being our clients. We enjoy working with you. I know many of you have heard from Justin Klein over the last few months. We're trying to get farther and further out in front of the subscription renewal process so that you have plenty of visibility as to the timing and the pricing. And Justin is a great contact if you need to reach out to someone. So thank you and have a great afternoon.